September 20th, 2005. Unknown to me at the time, this is the day when I would become complete. My other half was born unto North America on this day, though we would not meet for 6 months or so. Sure, I was familiar with the older sibling, and had many of the same feelings there, but there was something entirely different about this one. It was on a whole new level that I didn't think was possible. So positive, so comforting. I was in love. I love Katamari. Or should I say, we love Katamari. Yes indeed, I'm skipping the original game in this series for now. I thought long and hard about whether I should start at the beginning or not, but in the end, I couldn't help myself. We Love Katamari is in my top favorite games, probably in the top 5, and that will never change. I think it deserves my attention, and the attention of all those who see this video. We Love Katamari is the second game in a series that was ahead of its time in many ways. The original Katamari Damacy was such a strange idea with extraordinarily unique character. Its content is exactly what it is, and nothing more. Plus, the first game started life with a meager $20 price tag if I recall correctly. It certainly wasn't any more than $30, making it an enticing budget game. Importantly though, it used its budget quirks to its advantage, adding to the quirky style it was trying to convey. This was practically the progenitor of the modern indie title, even being developed for less than $1 million, which I'm aware is still a lot for an indie game, but roll with it, that was really cheap back then. Fast forward past the success of the first title, and you have the release of We Love Katamari, my ultimate comfort game. A game that always just feels warm and inviting to play. What is We Love Katamari about? Why, it's about how surprised the King of all Cosmos is that everyone loved the original game so much. Literally, as the prince, or one of his various cousins, you're fulfilling the wishes of the people of Earth who just want more Katamari. There's another plot going on as you play, but that'll be touched upon later in the video. For now, let's roll on through to the design stage. So what exactly is a Katamari game? Well, it's really a mix of 4 things: novelty, ease of understanding, enjoyment, and humor. This, according to the series creator, Keita Takahashi. It was his philosophy behind every decision in these first 2 games. He even went as far as to purposefully ignore Namco when they would ask him to make the game more complex. Whether I liked this series or not, that's something I can get behind, is a creator who is confident in their design. In We Love Katamari, the player is tasked with rolling a ball around, known as a Katamari. As you roll over objects that are small enough, the Katamari begins to pick them up and grow. Though this isn't always the main goal, generally you're trying to make your Katamari as large as possible within the allotted time. The player does this through an extremely interesting control scheme, one that perfectly illustrates why the DualShock controller is better than the Xbox controller because of its symmetrical stick design. Relax, I'm just joking. Well, kind of. The point is that the fact that these sticks are on the same horizontal plane really helps the controls feel that much more intuitive, because the 2 analog sticks are largely all you'll be using to play this game. Side note, if you've played Beautiful Katamari, you can really tell the difference, because it's only on the 360. The sticks need to work in tandem with each other, meaning your thumbs need to be in sync. Press both sticks in a direction, and the Katamari will roll in said direction. Press one stick left or right while pressing forward or backwards with the other, and you'll track the Katamari left or right. Pressing one stick forward while you press the other one backwards, meanwhile, will stop you and rotate the Katamari. All of this may sound confusing at first, but I've never used a control scheme that felt more second nature once you get used to it. Everything just sort of makes sense after a short while. Other controls include pressing R3 and L3 simultaneously to do a quick turn 180, or flicking both sticks back and forth, forward and backwards really swiftly, which will charge up a Sonic the Hedgehog style spin dash. Holding up on both sticks when up against a wall will allow you to climb it, though the size of your Katamari dictates how high it can climb before it falls, and how easy the climb will be. L1 and R1 serve as cameras to survey your surroundings, and you can take and save pictures while you're doing so. Not really useful unless you're looking for collectibles, but welcome nonetheless because it doesn't get in the way. Speaking of collectibles, the player can find two types hidden throughout the levels. The first are cousins, which are essentially new characters to use. The others are presents, which are accessories you can put on the character you're using. These are really well hidden in a lot of instances, but are just as often hilariously placed when you look at the context. You never know what you might find a cousin doing in a stage. As stated earlier, even when your main goal is something unique, generally you're always trying to make your Katamari as large as you can. You can only pick up objects that are generally smaller than the Katamari, and hitting objects that are too large too quickly can result in objects falling off of the Katamari. Each object has an overall size, a size your Katamari needs to be to pick it up, and an amount it'll add to the diameter of the Katamari. But when playing, it's generally really simple. Roll, roll, and roll. Focusing on the largest objects that you can pick up at the moment is where your focus should probably be. Levels in We Love Katamari are unlocked as you complete other levels, just like in, well, minigames. Some levels have multiple tiers, like there being 3 levels where you have to roll a sumo wrestler around to get him big enough to roll up his next opponent. Each subsequent opponent is larger than the last. There's really only one more aspect to the design that I want to touch on, which is what I like to call the Katamari camera. Have you ever played a game where the camera doesn't cooperate? Have you ever played a game where it likes to get stuck behind objects or wig out when it touches objects in awkward ways? Katamari has the solution, the Katamari camera. Essentially, the camera in Katamari can freely move through most objects. When it does, one would think your view would be obscured. Since the player doesn't control the camera themselves, with it following directly behind the Katamari at all times, this would be a problem under normal circumstances. The solution is literally just have a cutout appear when the camera passes through an object. That's it. That's literally it. Decorative cutouts based on the level you're playing will show up, allowing you to see exactly what you're doing. There are, of course, other solutions, like making objects in the way translucent or deleting them from view, but for some reason, many games just opt to have a broken camera instead, one that can't handle tight spaces and such. That's why you'll often hear me talking about adding in a Katamari camera to games like Glover, where that simple but elegant solution would work perfectly. Anyway, moving on. We Love Katamari has a plethora of ways to play, and things to do, even if most of it centers around rolling a Katamari. The level variants are sometimes minor changes, but they can have a big impact on how you roll. For example, there's a level where you're tasked with saving the red pandas. They need to eat strawberries to keep their coat red, otherwise they'll turn into normal pandas. So a charity organizer asks you to collect donation money they can use to buy strawberries. In the level, just like most levels, you can pick up pretty much whatever you want, but the goal is to pick up things that are worth a lot of money, like diamond rings or treasure chests, so your focus shifts to actually honing in on specific types of objects, meaning you now have to juggle the size of the Katamari in conjunction with the specific objects you want to pick up. Another level asks you to pick up either a cow or a bear. It doesn't matter which, and usually you start so close to one that you can end the level in under a second. And this will complete the level. But the real goal is to pick up the biggest cow or bear you can find. This means you'll have to carefully avoid anything else related to cows and bears, while making the Katamari big enough to catch a large one. One final level, which has 3 variants on its own, is the stage that asks you to light a bonfire for some campers. Your Katamari starts on fire, and you have to keep picking up flammable objects so that the Katamari doesn't burn out, while also avoiding things that will douse the flame, like the river in the middle of the stage. Once big enough, you'll make your way to the hill in the center where the bonfire is located, waiting to be torched. This diversity is surprisingly satisfying, because it really puts the base mechanics to the test. Stages where you have to try and pick up 1,000 cranes, stages where you have to try and get the Katamari to a perfect size without the size meter, stages where you need to gather lights for someone who's trying to study in the dark. There's so much here. Beyond that though, there are also extra levels that play differently. After you complete the game, you get access to a level where you need to pick up 1 million roses, which persists when you quit. I've gotten up to 250,000 on a file, but I've never completed it. The credits task you with avoiding the king and his Katamari while he picks up all of the cousins and the people in the level select meadow. There's even a minigame you can play when you fail a stage, where the king gets so angry that he begins shooting lasers from his eyes and you need to avoid them for as long as possible. Generally, the best strategy while playing most levels is to, again, focus on picking up the largest objects you're currently able to. Picking up large clusters of smaller objects is also advised, if you can do it quick enough. The goal is to get large as quickly as you can. It's similar to racing. The longer you stay at high speed in a race, the faster your laps will be. It's more important that you exit a turn at as high of a speed as possible than taking the turn as quickly as possible. The higher your exit speed, the quicker you can hit high speeds, and therefore the more time you're spending at said high speeds on the straight. Same concept here. The faster you can reach the size where you can pick up extremely large objects, the more time you have to pick up those large objects. Collecting 1 million thumbtacks may seem advantageous early on, but the 30 seconds you spent picking them up can be saved later on by spending a single second picking up a car instead. So the sooner you can get to the cars, the better. It's not all sunshine and roses here, however. There are a few issues with We Love Katamari. Longer stages have to load a bit in the middle, meaning the action grinds to a halt. Some of them have to do so 3 or 4 times. The upside is that the king says interesting things unique to that level, and the loading screens rarely last more than 5 to 7 seconds, but it's still kind of obnoxious when you just want to get to the action. Performance also isn't perfect, with slowdown happening when a lot is going on. I wouldn't say it really affects the game in a negative way, because it's rather rare, and this game isn't precise enough for it to screw anything up for you, but still it's worth noting. This is a bit of a nitpick, but the camera starts a bit low in many stages as well. It makes it kinda hard to see because the Katamari takes up a large portion of the screen. Finally, climbing is also inconsistent, which is probably the most frustrating aspect to the core design. As stated earlier, you can climb up the sides of objects relative to your size. If they're about half your size, no big deal. If they're about as tall as the Katamari, it's still not too bad. If they're way larger than the Katamari, don't even waste your time because it's not possible. The middle ground though, where the wall is maybe twice as tall as the Katamari, you can climb walls like that, but it's needlessly difficult. Hitting objects you can't yet pick up at too high of a speed can cause a crash, where objects will fall off of the Katamari, losing you size. So you have to stop your flow and edge up to the wall, then you have to hope that it makes it all the way up rather than just stopping and falling off at some point. There doesn't seem to be much consistency with climbing, so it feels like it's out of the player's control. Still, I suppose it's not a huge deal because climbing isn't a constant thing you need to do. But it is a rather core part of the moveset, which would be useful if it worked better. So it would be nice if it actually worked correctly. Though the main context for the game is about the surprise success of the original Katamari Damacy game, there is another story going on here, which is rather captivating. Every few levels, and told without words, we get scenes that illustrate the youth of the King of all Cosmos. It details his relationship with his father, as well as his eventual relationship with the Queen. It's surprisingly touching and shows that this game has tact. It can be absolutely fun and hilarious at times, but it can also be a little bit serious. It even gives context to the king's actions during certain situations in the game, like his father was really hard on him and had a harsh temper, as does the king when you lose a stage. Really, for as simple as it is, this is a great story and I'm glad it's here. It really tries to set up the king is more than just a joke machine, and I like that. Meanwhile, there are some other absolutely hilarious jokes in this game, as well as some that are awkward. Regardless, it's all gold, and the localization team worked some amazing magic on this title. One of my favorite parts of the game is the object collection. When you pick up an object in a stage, it gets put in the collection for you to look at, and comes with a little description. Seriously, I used to spend hours in here just looking at everything and reading the descriptions. They can be so hilarious sometimes. Like, for example, Umemoto Residence holds a lot of parties out in the yard. The parties always end up with some idiot guy prancing around naked. Mushroom House. Even if you hear laughter coming from inside, that doesn't mean they're eating their house. That's a drug reference, you guys. Tamagawa Residence. The daughter in this family is at the age where she's a bit sensitive to the smell of fish. That's... Moving on, there's even what I believe is a Resident Evil 1 reference in the description of the giant mansion, Rudolph's residence. If the entrance door closes by itself, then the nightmare has just begun. How great is that? Graphically, the game is super simple, probably so that they could fit every object imaginable on the screen without the PS2 buckling. But damn if it doesn't work extraordinarily well. This game has a style all its own, and simple or not, it's absolutely beautiful. As is the sound design. A lot of objects make unique sounds when you pick them up or crash into them, and these sounds are always spot on, giving that object a lot of character. The music though, anyone who's ever heard of this series before knows how great the music is. This is one of the best soundtracks in gaming, bar none. The eclectic mix is absolutely perfect, and it just feels so warm and inviting and fun. There's honestly not much I can say because it's perfect and all, so just check it out, preferably while playing the game. This game feels like a party. You know what my favorite holiday is? It's Halloween, because I like the communal atmosphere. It feels like a party in the streets because everyone is out and has the same understanding of what's going on. Katamari captures that feeling extraordinarily well. It's so dense with positive imagery, innocence, fun, and things that it just ends up feeling like a giant party. It's a fantastic atmosphere, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Other than maybe having that atmosphere in real life, I guess. What to improve here? What to improve? Obviously, all of the minor issues above could be dealt with, but really only two problems actually affect the game in any substantial way. The first is the inconsistent nature of climbing. That really should be addressed, and if I recall, it was indeed addressed for the most part in later games, so that's good. The other issue? The addictive nature of the game. This game will pull you in and never let go. Once you go Katamari, you'd better go call your mommy? Shut up, you get the point. The game is unhealthily addictive, and should be put on a list of highly regulated, banned substances. Though if you're going to destroy your life, Katamari sure is a damn fun way to do it. What do you want me to say? This game is great. Go play it. Buy a PS2, buy a memory card, buy a copy of We Love Katamari, and go play it. It's worth it. If you're disappointed, you aren't human. Have any of you already played We Love Katamari? Or one of the other games in the series? What did you think? Are you now married to your addiction? Sound off in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. I'm gonna go play some more Katamari. Na 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 Katamari. Na 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 Katamari. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in another one, here's the last one that I uploaded. You can also follow me on Twitter or subscribe by hitting the subscribe button.